Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. Proverbs 16:24. Today, I want to contrast the beauty of life-giving words with something that's happening in our culture, and you're probably seeing it. It's affecting our daughters, and it concerns me greatly. To understand this current trend, we're going to go back just a few decades for a trip down memory lane. I want you to hear some slang from the decades. First up, the 1950s, when things were, the things teens were making cool sounded pretty life-giving, to be honest. Here are two teenagers talking in an actual video archive from that decade.
You sound like you need a helper. Could I lend a hand?
Would you? Would you really?
Isn't that so sweet? I mean, it's so incredibly wholesome. He wants to help her. Well, I'm afraid that's the end of the good news. At first, in-style language just kind of got silly, but slang ever so slowly lost its life-giving quality. At first, it just became, less helpful. Like in the 1980s, the era we remember for Valley Girls.
Like tubular. Well, it's like a totally great day. It's like totally awesome. Gag me with a spoon.
And today, I can't actually play you a clip for what's in style today because the way teen girls talk to each other is very often incredibly profane. To greet one another, many young women use filthy, body-shaming language in a tone of disdain and disapproval. And I'm not talking about when they're in conflict, but when they're in good standing with each other. To call one another dirty names, this is what's called cringe culture. That's what's trending today. Of course, many Christian moms don't find that their daughters are using the profane language, but their girls do mimic the tone of disapproval and disdain. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because it may be better than the profane language coming from some teen and college-age women, but our plumb line is not the world, is it? We're supposed to be using God's word as our plumb line. It's supposed to guide the way we behave, and that includes the way we greet each other. Now, what's in style today among young women, it's far from gentle. It's certainly not kind or soft. And the result is an unkind, harsh style of communication that bleeds over into family interactions. And I have to wonder, if I could hang out in your house for a day, honestly, there'd be some days I would not want you to hang out in mine. But if I could hang out in yours, would the style of communication better reflect the unkind, harsh trend in our culture, or would it accurately reveal what God's word encourages, gentleness, softness, flavored with kindness? I want to remind you that the tongue really does have power. Proverbs 18:21 tells us that the tongue can bring life or death, and those who love to talk can reap the consequences. And consequences can be good and they can be bad. So the consequences of life or the consequences of death, which are coming out of your tongue, which are coming out of your daughters. Proverbs 15:4 says that the tongue can be a tree of life, or it can break the spirit. One or the other. What we say matters. So let's consider how teen and college-age women are talking to each other. But of course, what I really want you to think about is the fact that this is dripping down into tween girls. Your girl. Just recently, I heard two probably 10, 11, 12-year-old girls in my church. They saw each other, and to greet each other, one of them walked up and said, "Hello, you're dumb." And the other one just said, "Hey, I know, you're dumb too." And they said it just like it was so normal and natural. They didn't mean to be mean to each other. They just wanted to greet each other. Listen, every woman is an image bearer. Every girl is an image bearer and a masterpiece created by God. And when we speak otherwise, that's a terrible lie. It's a perversion of truth to use language like that. Let me remind you, words have power. I cringe when I hear a Christian teen girl blurt out ugly words when she greets a friend, or when she greets her mom with that tone of disdain and disapproval. Or when I see a college-age girl post that kind of greeting on her social media platform. I hope you do too. Those girls are planting pain, whether they know it or not. They're planting pain into their friends. They're planting pain into their family, into their world. And honestly, I don't understand it. In a cringe culture where women march with posters that demand to be treated with respect and dignity and equality, how is it that no one's saying, hey, if we want to be treated with respect, we can't turn around and treat each other disrespectfully? Maybe we shouldn't be using harsh, ugly words with each other. This month, I want to encourage you to spend some time planting something different into your daughter. Plant kindness, plant kind words. Those words have power, the power of life, and even the power of healing. Listen to our key verse for this month. It's Proverbs 16, verse 24. And it simply says, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. You know, when I read that the other day, I was thinking there's a process to making honey. I kind of am a bee fanatic. I love them. I think they're adorable. This summer, I went out and I sat in a whole field of them as I watched them gather pollen. Honey doesn't just exist. It takes planning and a lot of hard work. The average honeybee takes 10 trips out of the hive each day. I told you I liked bees. I'm a little bit of a bee nerd. On those trips, it visits between 50 and 100 flowers to collect pollen on each trip. And for all that, it will produce only 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in its lifetime. But if it works together with 11 other worker bees, well, they can produce 1 whole teaspoon of life-giving, healing honey for your cup of tea today. I don't think God used honey to help us understand the power of our kind words accidentally. For one thing, honey and kind words both have healing properties, right? It feels so good to hear something sweet spoken over my life, over my heart. And I want to remind you to speak life-giving, sweet, kind words over your daughter this month. That's one way you can plant kindness in her tongue. But I think there's more for us to see here. I think it takes work to produce kind words, just like it takes work to produce honey. And Mom, we get to be a part of that. This month, we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to do the hard work of planting kindness on our tongues and in our mouths and in our daughters' tongues. You and I get to set the tone for our homes and for those kind words, for those words to be released into the atmosphere. Maybe that makes us honeybees. I don't know. I definitely think it makes us queen bees. Let's work this month. Let's be intentional to get our daughters and our sons and probably ourselves speaking words of life. Let's practice using kind words and watch the power of our words at work.